Zoomers. Connecting through Zoom is the way to go. So let's dive right in. It's Boomer Zoomers.
And here they are, as promised, back with us, the Boomer Zoomers down there in Charleston. Bill, tell us who you have with you today.
To my immediate left is the lovely Louise Weaver. She's been here several times before, and she's absolutely brilliant. She leads the pack. Now, I wish I could say the same thing about who's on her left side, but we have Ken. And I'll just leave it at that. So.
And you are, of course, Bill Isabella. Merry Christmas to you all. Now, where are the Christmas decorations or the Hanukkah decorations? Where are they?
They're in the meeting room. And Lou has a on her shirt. So.
All right. So the topic you guys want to talk about today, and I assume this is a topic you discussed in one of your previous meetings?
Yes, it is. Yes.
With the entire group. And again, remind our viewers, how many people normally attend your weekly current events meetings?
Usually around 20, but it goes as high as 30. So we get anywhere between, say, 20 and 30, 32 a week. That's normal. That's normal for us.
And you guys talk about current events, past events.
We talk about we have free for all. Like this week is going to be a free for all. So the participants bring in subjects, I bring in subjects, and then we do a philosophical Thursday once a month as well. So we talk at length about any one particular subject. So it's quite varied and quite interesting.
And so an individual person will have a topic that they want to expand on. Right. So Bill will assist them in gathering information, and then they do a presentation to the group.
Right.
Well, one of the we don't just like you as people and commentators, but we think you guys set the example of how civil debate, even when among your group you don't agree on a topic, how civil debate and discourse should happen in this country. And you guys are a living example of that every week. So thank you for that. All right, today's topic, I guess the theme would be the death of George Floyd did not have to happen. What brought you guys to the point of talking about the George Floyd incident, Bill?
Well, we talked about George Floyd right after it happened, going back several years ago. And most of us, everybody was appalled, and we came to the conclusion that it didn't have to happen. But of course, we were given information at the time that was partial information. Subsequent to that happening, I dug a little bit deeper and I found that the European Union, I think it was Sky News, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, they did a deeper dive and they discovered significantly more footage, which showed George Floyd standing on the corner right around the bodega. From the bodega he had tried to pass a counterfeit bill. They showed George Floyd standing up without any cuffs on him, just standing there complaining he couldn't breathe. And then of course the subject went on from there. And we all know what happened to George Floyd. So fast forward to the information just recently released. Probably the most damning evidence was the fact that the chief of police when he was put on the stand during the Derek Chauvin and the other police officers, their trial, he claimed that his officers were never trained in maximum restraint techniques, MRT. And in fact, they were. And there's the video that I sent you, the recent video. Half a dozen officers were interviewed, and they said that they were all trained in maximum restraint techniques. So one of which was the knee on the neck and not on the windpipe.
So we'll get into some of the details a little more, and I'll play some of the video in the background silently because I assume it was this Fox News story that sparked your interest in this case. But Louise, doesn't this seem to be yet another case of a narrative being perpetrated, being rushed out there to all of America based on either false or incomplete facts? Your thoughts on that, Louise?
Well, absolutely, because when it first happened, I said, why would a police officer risk his pension, his job, and everything to outright kill somebody? So I did a little research on it, and I only saw it once and never heard about it until now. But the officers were speaking amongst themselves, and they said this could be a drug situation and we may have to use a special technique to keep him down. And I said, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then I never heard it or saw it anywhere else. And then it took on a life of its own, which we all know about. And you know, there was not this discourse or finding of facts like I seem to have found a few days after the happening. So I just kind of wondered all these years. Anyway.
Let me just comment on, Lou. I hope you would agree that the media continues, and has done for quite some time, continues to feed us a narrative of what they want us to hear and see and believe. Let's, without forgetting
Yep.
the deep discussion about it, the 9-year-old kid who had his face painted half black and half red.
Yeah.
I mean, what did they do here? They purport he was mocking black people because he was in blackface. And just take that narrative and compare it to this narrative. The two different subjects entirely, but the same thing is true. The media, again, wants us, force feeds us what they want us to believe.
Yep. Ken, let me play what I think is that narrative here. Let me just play this short clip from the Floyd family attorney, the guy who instigates a lot of these racial lawsuits. This is, if I hit the right spot, which I think I did on the video, this is the narrative they wanted you. Hold on, I forgot to share the sound. Let me try that again. Let me check the sound. Yes, okay, it'd be nice if you could hear it. Here we go.
George Floyd was a healthy young man.
But the medical examiner, Dr. Andrew Baker, found that he had two separate and very serious heart conditions.
Now, we didn't hear that, right? So, Ken, that was just the narrative. This was a healthy guy who was murdered by police. Ken, go ahead. Take it away.
One of the things that concerned me about this whole documentary or whatever it was that was out there is that if they had all of this information, while it may have been scattered about in different positions, different people, why is it just coming out now? I don't know.
Bill, that's a great question, Ken. Bill, what did your group postulate on that?
We had a lengthy discussion, and some people still believe that George Floyd was absolutely abused by the police, and they're entitled to that opinion, of course. But I think the evidence shows just the opposite. I think that the police, when met with George Floyd on that fateful day, he was resisting arrest, which is a crime. And in this country, when you're commanded by the police to do something, whether it's get out of your car, stand up, sit down, whatever it might be, you are obliged to follow their orders at that point in time. George Floyd had complications, which led to his death more so than the use of force by the police. I think the police did what they had to do in this case. I resent the fact that the media put this narrative out there and let it lie for how many years ago was this? They let it lie for many, many years. And many people have suffered greatly at the hands of the media. There you go here. They're talking about the knee thing. There you go.
Yeah, and they were trained that the chief of police actually got on the stand and said, no, I've never heard of that maximum restraint tactic before. When every one of these officers interviewed here in the video said it was. Another lie they told us, Louise, was that when George said, I can't breathe, he was saying that even before the cops arrested him, because he was having whatever drug or heart issues even before they came, right? That was another fact, Louise.
Yes. Yes, that was another fact. A lot of these facts are coming to light now, and I think we just see the clips that they want us to see, and follow up with the production that followed everything. Which, I mean, a death of someone is never condoned. But making a hero out of someone who is actually a criminal, I just can't really see how that plays.
Yeah, and what I can't see, Ken, is how somebody like a police chief in the know and other people in the know of what the real facts of the case were. It's one thing to do a cover-up in a trial. It's another thing when that case or that trial is sparking national protests, riots, death, destruction of property, national news attention, and yet the police chief and others in the know let the lie persist. What does that say about the morals and the culture in our society, Ken.
All right, I'd like to fill you in on some information that depending on what state you're in, that resisting arrest could be a misdemeanor, could be a felony. So that by resisting arrest of a legitimate police officer, you're breaking the law to begin with. But in terms of the morality of the aspect, the way things have been going with the defunding of the police, I think that there was a cloud over a lot of the police departments that would perhaps threaten their pensions, their very jobs. So they would sit back and just wait and see what would happen rather than standing up for what's right or morally right, or at least legally right, at the risk of perhaps losing their own job, not to mention their pension. So I think that it was a background fear that caused them to be inactive instead of proactive.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Bill, let's raise this up a higher level. I don't know if I said this with your group before, but I've said it on my show many times. It's to the point now that if I ever hear a narrative, a story being pushed where all of the left, all of the media, all of the politicians are supporting it, I'm now saying that's a lie. They're doing it to this extent because they're covering up something. They want to deceive us. They want to hide something. You just can't trust anybody in any institution anymore. When a chief of police can get on the stand and flat out lie in a trial of this magnitude.
Exactly.
Can we believe any narrative pushed by the government, or I would even say the left these days?
Well, I think it should be common knowledge, and if it isn't, you need to wake up and crawl from underneath the rock. But the fact of the matter is, our FBI, the exalted FBI, and the CIA have been guilty of doing that for years and years and years. I think it's coming to a head at this point in time. I no longer trust the FBI. I must admit, I still love this country and wonder that we have such a wonderful government here. But there are certain segments of the government that need to be cleaned out extraordinarily well. And that we'll stop at FBI and CIA and work our way down eventually to get to these corrupt and sinister chiefs of police. Yes.
You know, Louise, I'll follow up on that with a specific case just on me. See, and maybe you have one. I mean, I used to say up until 3 or 4 years ago, when all this we just talked about became evident, I used to say, come on, okay, you know, I know all the evidence with, for instance, the JFK assassination, but how could so many people be in the know and so many people cover it up and not say, how could the word not get it? Well, I'm starting to believe that a conspiracy, even at that level, probably could have happened. I just didn't think from a process point of view, it would have been possible to cover up something that big that so many people knew about. So I don't know what to believe anymore. Lou, where are you on all this?
Well, I guess I trust no one. And I think if you have certain things held over certain people's heads about some kinds of behavior, then you can maybe get people to quiet down. And I think that we are probably gifted in the fact that this is your life's work and we have the time to do the research. But the average person, all they can squeeze in is the 6 o'clock news or the 8 o'clock in the morning radio show. And that's what they believe, because in the past, when there were 3 radio stations, you got more of the truth, when you got more of a Walter Cronkite type guy. But now you don't know where to go unless you do your own research. And a lot of times it's absolutely opposite from what you're hearing on the mainstream media. So
Yes.
I don't watch any news on mainstream media. I look for my own. And if something's off, as I mentioned earlier, then I do my own research. But then if you hear something that doesn't jive, it's wiped from the internet too.
Yep. That's right. Yeah. Even what we're finding out with how the government coerced Twitter and Facebook and other media platforms to to put out false narratives. Ken, you know, whether it's a George Floyd case, whether it's the other narratives, Russia, you know, JFK, whatever it is, and like Louise said, if you're just a casual consumer of the news, you have no chance to know what the truth is. You have no chance. You have to go in and do deep dive research on your own these days. That's what I do, to try to see, you know, what else is out there. But it all, to me, Ken, points to massive corruption. Your thoughts?
I'd like to quote Reagan on this, where he said, trust but verify.
Right.
I can't verify. This is the extent of my electronic accessibility. Yeah. So I can't verify. And even if I did have the electronics capabilities, I wouldn't know where to look.
Bill, final word to you. Wrap this all up for us.
My word, boy, I ask anyone that's listening to take nothing on its face value, to do a deeper dive, even if you don't have time. It's incumbent upon you, in order to, before you cast another vote, before you have another conversation, it's incumbent upon you to do a little bit of research on your own and come to your own conclusions. But don't listen to anybody. Don't even listen to me.
Well, it's called citizen vigilance, and it's not just, I mean, too many people don't do it when it comes to voting. They automatically vote for the R, or they automatically vote for the D, or they don't do their research. We have to be vigilant as media consumers, as product consumers, and as political consumers. And we thank you guys, the Boomer Zoomers down there in Charlestown, for being vigilant and talking and debating about these things. And I'm sure most of the time you guys are arriving at the truth, because you're doing the work, you're doing the vigilance that it takes. So Bill Isabella, Louise Weaver, Ken McCourt, thank you again for joining us here on In the Dugout.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.